Everyone, my name is Kevin Medina and this is my focus project. For years, the standard of monitors to play on PC were 60 Hz. That is to say that the monitors could show 60 images per second. In 2009, the first 120 Hz monitors appeared, and most professionals and amateur players fell in love with the product, especially for shooters. But there is a belief that the human eye cannot see more than 60 Hz, which is the frequency of images per second, not the wavelength of light. Things change today with the growth for eSports. This type of monitors became fashionable. They are really better science, they add a better gaming experience and add a layer of extra realism. But the objective of this project is to deny that the human eye cannot see more than 30 or 60 FPS and tell you one difference you will notice if you buy a monitor of this type. Let's talk about data first. The visual cortex of the human being retains images to reach the retina for a 50th of a second. The effect on our perception is that any succession of images that is lower than 15 images per second, our brain will not perceive as an animation. This is the minimum for the illusion of movement to occur, but how much is the maximum? Well, when we play video games on PC, all the change in landscape position, the camera, the characters of a visual world perceived in a constant pace. In the case of monitor of 60 Hz and the game that runs at 60 FPS, we will perceive in with 60 different images every second. The real world is different. The photons bounce on the surface of the objects and they hit our cornea constantly. That way we are constantly revealing the position of an object if it is moved. At that time, there will be new photons that bounce on that object and they arrive again in our cornea or retina. Three protagonists participate in this process. The photons that reach our eye, the eye itself, and the brain that has to understand and process that image. So how many photons reach our eye in every second? Let's make a very raw calculation. Let's take an object illuminated by sunlight, for example a ball. The flow of solar radiation is 10 raised to 45 photons per second, of which 1/3 are visible by the human eye. Taking into account the distance from the Earth to the Sun and the size of our ball that we are going to assume are 11 centimeters in radius. We could say that the light that arrives is from 1.69 by 10 to 32 of the second meter photons that hit the surface of this ball. The ball in turn only reflects to 20% of the light, so we have a 0.33 photons second meter. Now the light that is reflected travels from the ball to the human eye, and once again, note the light that reflects the ball reaches the eye to suit the process in repairing it. The angular size of the pupil, that is of the ball, all about 5 is approximately 1.3 by 10 at least 5 meters. And with that we calculate the amount that reach the pupil is 4.29 by 10 raised to the 26 photons second meter. Assuming a uniform distribution of the photons along the cornea over time and taking into account that we have approximately 6 million cones in the fovea, we could say that we received 71.5 quintillion images per second from the real world, and that without counting the peripheral vision. We are only talking about the center part of our view. This calculation is very approximative and also is not really comparable to the images per second of a video game. Rather, it tells us that our eye reaches a flow constant from 4.29 by 10 to 26 photons every second. Those photons are the ones that reveal the position of the object at all time. So if an object moves, we could receive the information with that frequency. That's what the eye reaches. But how fast can the eye see? The eye has two types of cells, the cones and the roots. The roots are much more frequency than the cones. Of the cones are the ones that form a large part of the fovea. The problem here is that not all cells respond the same from fast to light. Some go faster, others go slower. This may depending on the colors of the light and the amount of light. Let's see things read more or less slowly. For example, the cones are very fast in response, but they are not able to see in the dark. So when we are in the dark, it is harder for us to see certain things. Read and see moving objects. There are many studies. There are many studies published of the response time of the cones, but they are quite complex because it is not a single response time. In the fastest case, it seems that this time is about 15 milliseconds, but this data is really not relevant. Why? As a wall cells response in 15 milliseconds, which is not the case. Not all the cells are simulated at the same time in synchronity. Each one goes at its own pace, something much slower, but they also are constant signals from different cells without stopping, making what we see really is a constant flow of information that reaches the brain. They are not images per second or anything similar, so we actually have a high enough capacity to perceive movement. The limit factor is not really the amount of information that the eye receives, of the ability of the eye to read that information. The problem is in the brain and how the brain understands the information. This part is the most complex and interesting of a science. The brain has an incredible plasticity. It is capable of improving, changing, adapting, and can develop truly incredible capacity from an amazing domain of the body to an impressive sharpness of the senses. And this is where the problem is. When the brain receives this constant flow of data, it interprets the information in real time and makes us understand what we are seeing and monitor and read a traffic signal. When this data changes very quickly, it is if the brain is disconnected, and it implies that you are seeing a large cloud of blurring. This is the motion blur. It is natural effect that you can check if you move your hand quickly in front of your eyes. But how capable we are to distinguish an object in motion? 120 tests. It is up to the person in terms of that the brain can be trained to sharpen our vision and eventually see fast moving objects. For example, a pilot of the United States Air Force can identify objects that pass very fast in front of his vision. Even he is able to identify an image that appears for 1/220th of a second. But what happens with the movies that go to 24 frames and we see them well in principle? Well, two things happen. The first is that you are used to movies because of that the natural time, especially, but this is not the way the world. And second, that each frame of the movie also captured a certain amount of blur, and this is saves the brain and makes you believe that really. Also, the images are static to have that blur. They happens more or less natural. In video games, that does not happen because in video games, not being under a movie camera do not show that motion blur, although some modern games include the option to calculate that effect in video games. What rally time are static images one after the other, which is quite unnatural, but you are also used to playing, so your brain see it normal. The mind is able to adapt to all the environments, but what happens when we go a monitor of 144 Hz? If you are used to shooters and games where the screens move very quickly, you will notice that when the camera moves, everything is much clearer, everything looks much more like the real world, giving basically two final effects. First of all, when the camera is moving, everything is clearer. Second, especially in shooters, the feeling of realism increases a lot because it stops being so unnatural and seems more like you would see it that situation. The same effects happens of the contrary when you play in 144 and want to return to 60 because it is the just unnatural and you are no longer used to playing like this. However, this effect is much less for people who are not used to playing because your brain is already having trouble understanding the virtual world you see on the screen. Get used to the elements and interpret the images as if it were the same being seen through your eyes. And for that reason, it is that people who do not play are no doubt to distinguish this difference so much from their legend that the human eye cannot see more than 30 or 60 FPS. Personally, the difference is quite noticeable, and the game makes it much more fluid and enjoyable. Pleasant and maybe a slight advantage in the game and when returning to 60 Hz, and I notice unnatural. Thank you for watching.